Hello, welcome to the Bella, Infidelity Stories channel, where we present authentic narratives filled with surprising turns. If you found the video enjoyable, consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. It truly contributes to the growth of our channel. Now, let's immerse ourselves in the narrative. My name is Luis, I'm 29, and I've always had a passion for fitness. From a young age, sports have played a significant role in my life. It's an endeavor I've consistently pursued, whether it's the gym, running, swimming, or anything else you can think of. It maintains my fitness, and truthfully, there's a satisfying thrill in challenging my limits. I have spent several years at this large company in New York, and I genuinely enjoy my time here. The task presents its difficulties, yet it's within reach. The team is exceptional. Mr. Smith, our boss, is strict yet just, and I maintain a positive rapport with all my colleagues. All good. To be frank, it's the type of role where you arrive, complete your tasks, and depart with minimal fuss. There's a particular solace in that, wouldn't you agree? One aspect I have consistently valued about the company is their genuine concern for their employees. Each year, a grand corporate celebration takes place, and this time, I was truly excited about it. It's more than merely the complimentary beverages and snacks. While it's certainly a benefit, it's also an opportunity to relax, connect, and engage with others beyond the workplace setting. After all our hard work, this party is the perfect opportunity to unwind and enjoy ourselves. This evening has been in the works for quite some time. A dress code was in place, strictly formal, and I had already chosen my finest suit. It's a sleek charcoal gray piece, tailored to perfection, that consistently draws admiration. You're familiar with it. Wearing it brings me a sense of joy. It feels as though I'm entering a different iteration of who I am. I paid special attention that day, aware that this evening had the potential to become truly unforgettable. The gathering took place at an elegant location in the heart of the city, and as I entered, the thrill in the atmosphere was palpable. The atmosphere was alive with joyous laughter and animated chatter. Individuals from all departments gathered together, relishing the evening's festivities. The ambience was easygoing, devoid of any work-related chatter, just the kind of evening I craved. I encountered a handful of familiar colleagues, we shared some drinks, and I was relishing the atmosphere. As the evening unfolded, I began to observe something unusual. Mr. Smith, the boss, typically a rather collected individual, had begun to indulge in excessive drinking. He wasn't fully intoxicated, but he was certainly on his way. And then, as the evening reached its midpoint, he vanished. It appeared that no one took issue. Ultimately, he held the reins, and it was not uncommon for him to discreetly vanish when the situation became a bit too chaotic. He headed to his hotel room for a bit of rest, while the rest of us continued on. Initially, it didn't cross my mind as anything significant. I was enjoying myself, and it appeared that everyone else was as well. Individuals were moving to the rhythm, engaging in conversation, and embracing the moment with carefree abandon. And that was the moment it all changed. While I was immersed in the melodies, sharing laughter with a few colleagues, I sensed a soft pull on my arm. I spun around, and there she stood, Regina. Regina is, quite frankly, a unique character. She is the wife of Mr. Smith, and I had encountered her several times at company gatherings, always impeccably dressed, exuding an authoritative presence that commanded attention. At 37, she possesses a youthful appearance that could easily be mistaken for someone in their mid-20s. She stands tall, her dark hair impeccably styled at all times. Her eyes possess a keen intensity, suggesting she commands every space she enters. Yet this evening, an unspoken change enveloped her, a silent shift that was palpable. She grasped my hand and guided me away from the throng. I initially considered that perhaps she required assistance with an issue. She led me to a secluded nook of the venue, away from the gaze of others. I found myself in a state of uncertainty. Perhaps I had misunderstood the circumstances. But then she did something that utterly caught me by surprise. She pressed her lips against mine. It was far from a mere peck on the cheek or anything so casual. The kiss was intense, landing squarely on the lips. I paused for an instant, taken by surprise, but then a part of me resolved to embrace the moment. She drew back, her gaze fixed on mine, and without hesitation, she murmured, "Let's make tonight unforgettable." I found myself at a loss for words. I was utterly astonished. Yet, I had no intention of driving her away. It wasn't that I was seeking anything of this nature, but in that instant, I couldn't ignore the undeniable connection we shared. It felt peculiar. It caught me off guard. Yet a part of me whispered, why not? The remainder of the night was spent meandering through the city, engaging in conversation, sharing laughter, and, truthfully, behaving like two souls who had entirely lost sight of the outside world. It was exhilarating and liberating, a sensation I hadn't experienced in ages. As the evening progressed, we found ourselves at her hotel. And that's how I found myself waking up the next morning, solitary in the room, with no recollection of what transpired after that kiss. I experienced a sense of disorientation and confusion, and a part of me questioned whether it had all been a mere figment of my imagination. As I lay there, a flurry of questions surged through my mind, each one probing the depths of what had just transpired. Unbeknownst to me, that evening would lay the groundwork for all that followed. I found myself in a hotel room that I didn't recognize. The bed seemed overwhelmingly spacious, while the silence of the room enveloped me. I propped myself up gradually, attempting to reconstruct the events of the previous night. Everything felt unclear, as if I had just emerged from a thick mist. I glanced at my phone. The late morning sun filtered through the curtains, a clear indication that I had overslept my intended schedule. I found myself uncertain about how I arrived at this moment, or what precisely transpired after I trailed Regine out of the gathering. The sole memory that lingered vividly was the kiss. The kiss lingered in my mind, unforgettable, yet I found myself questioning the reality of the moment, as if I had wandered into a dream that blurred the lines of what was true. I rose from my slumber, donned my jacket, and stepped out of the hotel room. The hall was still, and I hurriedly descended the elevator, wishing to avoid any encounters that might reveal my disorientation. I was reluctant to confront the repercussions of whatever transpired the previous night. It felt overwhelming, a whirlwind of emotions, and I found myself hesitant to even contemplate it. The journey back seemed to pass in a haze. I was oblivious to the music playing on the radio and indifferent to the bustling traffic around me. Thoughts of Regina kept resurfacing in my mind. Her touch, her kiss, the way she guided me away from the party as if we were the only ones in existence. I attempted to convince myself that it was merely an isolated incident. Ultimately, she was united in matrimony with Mr. Smith. She was his partner in life. This must be some sort of error, wouldn't you agree? Yet, beneath the surface, I couldn't ignore the connection that drew us together. It had been ages since I experienced something like that, and it left me bewildered. As I sought to unravel the complexities surrounding me, my phone suddenly interrupted the silence with a ring. A message arrived from Regina. "Hey, I realize things became quite intense last night. May we have a conversation? I will be residing at the hotel for a few additional days." I gazed at the message for what felt like an eternity before crafting my response. I wished to overlook it. I wished to act as if the night had never occurred. However, I was unable to do so. She had an undeniable quality that lingered in my mind. After a moment of doubt, I decided to respond with a text. "Absolutely. When would you like to get together?" The message arrived in no time at all. "What do you think about grabbing lunch today? I will be at the cafe located across the street from the office." I was completely in the dark about what lay ahead. I hadn't interacted with her much beyond the office, yet here I found myself, consenting to meet her once more. I made my way to the cafe, putting on a facade of normalcy, yet everything felt oddly out of place. What was I even up to? Was I truly on the verge of having lunch with my boss's wife after the way we had parted ways? Upon arriving at the cafe, I found her already seated at a table by the window. She appeared just as composed as she had the previous evening, yet there was a gentle quality in her gaze, as if she were anticipating something. Anticipating my arrival. Perhaps. I approached and took a seat opposite her. We shared a fleeting, uncomfortable smile before she began to speak. Louise, I realize this may seem unexpected, but I felt compelled to address what happened last night. I don't want you to perceive me as merely a woman lacking self-control. I've given it a great deal of thought. I was at a loss for words. What could possibly be expressed? I was still grappling with everything that had transpired, and her words only added to my turmoil. She offered her apologies, yet I found myself uncertain about the reason behind them. She pressed on, her tone steady yet earnest. It's clear that what transpired last night went beyond a mere kiss. It was something deeper, and I understand it's intricate. I don't want to complicate things for you, but I would be dishonest if I claimed I didn't feel something. Something genuine. I remained still, allowing her words to resonate within me. She was indeed correct. It was never solely about the kiss. From the very beginning, there was an undeniable connection between us, and her current words revealed that she wasn't dismissing it either. This wasn't something I anticipated, she added. I never planned to take such a step, yet, in that moment, it just seemed right. Now, it occupies my thoughts incessantly. I was still absorbing her words, yet one thing stood out unmistakably. Regina was standing her ground. She wasn't acting as if it were a mere error or something that could be brushed aside. And that intensified the reality of it all. I inhaled deeply, seeking to organize my thoughts before I replied. Regina, I find myself at a loss for words. Clearly, we are both aware of the circumstances at hand. You're in a committed relationship. You are the spouse of my employer. This surely isn't something we can simply act upon, is it? She nodded, her expression becoming gentler. I understand. I understand. Yet, I understand that emotions don't simply vanish because we wish them to. I'm not requesting any decisions at this moment, but I believe it's important for us to discuss it. There was an unspoken issue looming over everyone. We circled the topic, each hesitant to voice it directly. It was evident that we shared a mutual understanding. A change had occurred between us, and it was impossible to overlook it. The remainder of the lunch unfolded in a haze, with both of us feeling tentative, neither willing to overstep any boundaries. Yet as I departed, an unmistakable shift lingered in the atmosphere, a sense of something unavoidable. Though no promises had been exchanged, an unspoken understanding lingered between us, guiding the path ahead. As I stepped out of the cafe, it dawned on me that I had ventured further than I ever intended, and retreat was no longer an option. In the days that followed, the situation between Regina and me did not simply recede into the background as I had wished. Exactly the contrary. My mind was persistently occupied with thoughts of her, the memory of her kiss at the party lingered, along with every word exchanged at that cafe. It was as if I were trapped in a lingering sensation, her presence an idea I couldn't dismiss. Honestly, I never anticipated any of this unfolding. I was simply an individual who went to work, fulfilled my responsibilities, and enjoyed a fulfilling life. But now, it seemed as though I was trapped in a reality that eluded my grasp. I had always taken pride in maintaining a professional demeanor, yet each time I encountered her, I found myself contemplating the direction in which our relationship might evolve. Regina, in her own way, certainly didn't simplify matters. A few days after our lunch, she reached out to see if I was interested in grabbing coffee. I nearly declined, yet there was an undeniable quality in her voice, a trace of authenticity, that compelled me to consent. Despite my lingering confusion, I couldn't ignore the palpable connection that existed between us. We encountered each other in a serene cafe, nestled in the heart of downtown, one of those spots that seem to exist in a world where no one truly acknowledged your presence. Upon entering, I noticed her poised by the window, clad in a sharp blazer that enhanced her already impressive professionalism. Yet, there was an unmistakable change in her gaze. It lacked the icy, methodical stare of a person in control. It had a gentler quality, almost delicate. "Hey," she said, a smile spreading across her face as I took a seat. "Your arrival was quite a surprise to me. This may seem overwhelming." It was clear that she felt uncertain about how to begin, and to be honest, I felt the same way. Everything about it seemed dreamlike. Yet, we were both aware that we couldn't continue to sidestep the matter at hand. "I find myself uncertain about the direction this is taking, Regina." I spoke, attempting to maintain a calm demeanor, even as my anxiety surged within me. "We cannot simply pretend that everything is as it should be. We can't continue to encounter each other in this manner. It's unjust." She leaned in, her eyes sharp with focus, yet her tone remained steady. "I understand. However, I believe this is an issue we cannot overlook. You sensed it as well, didn't you? That evening at the gathering?" I'm trapped in my thoughts. I inhaled deeply. Naturally, I had sensed it. The allure. Her gaze upon me was captivating. The manner in which her lips met mine. It was not an issue to be taken lightly. I'm at a loss for thoughts these days. I confessed. This situation is incredibly frustrating. You are united in matrimony with Mr. Smith. You hold the reins of this entire operation. This has the potential to destroy it all. She shook her head, her fingers gliding along the rim of her coffee cup. I understand. I've been pondering that as well. That's precisely why I summoned you here. I would like to discuss this with you to find a solution. I want to make sure I don't look back with regret. I had to acknowledge, her candor was a refreshing change. In our world, particularly in the workplace, it was uncommon for individuals to express themselves so candidly about anything. Yet, with Regina, it seemed distinct. There was an unexpected fragility to her that caught me off guard. Perhaps, just perhaps, it was the very thing that captivated me further. "What is it that you seek from me?" I inquired, my tone softer than I had meant it to be. "I'm uncertain about my own judgment in this situation." Her gaze softened, and she cast her eyes downward, contemplating her hands for a brief moment. "I'm not requesting anything that doesn't align with your wishes. I really need you to grasp the depth of my emotions. It's been ages since I've felt this mentally sharp. I've been existing in the background of my marriage, burdened by the identity of being Mr. Smith's wife. At this moment, I finally sense that I am taking a step for my own sake." Her words caught me off guard. I was completely unaware of the true nature of her life beyond the confines of her job. All I had ever witnessed was the poised, polished Regina. The woman who held the reins of power. I was completely unaware that she felt confined. "What comes next?" I inquired, my thoughts swirling rapidly. Should we simply act as if it never occurred? Shall we continue our clandestine meetings? She offered a faint, melancholic smile. "I'm not requesting any confidentiality, Luis. However, we must exercise caution. The implications of this situation remain uncertain for both of us." I found myself at a loss for words. A part of me felt the urge to retreat from this chaos. To simply turn away and act as if everything remained the same. Yet, the other side, the one that had felt an undeniable pull towards her from the start, recognized that I was already too entangled. We lingered in quietude for a moment. Neither of us aware of the path ahead. Regina was not advocating for anything. She was simply revealing everything. The burden of it all crashed down on me with overwhelming force. In that moment, it dawned on me that my involvement ran deeper than I had ever envisioned. "I'm not suggesting we act impulsively," she remarked, shattering the stillness. "However, I require you to consider this matter carefully. Consider our existence." In that moment, time appeared to stand still. Retreat was no longer an option. I had to confront the reality that what was unfolding between us was genuine, and it wasn't going to disappear. After that, we went our separate paths. We remained uncertain about what would unfold next. Yet, I was aware of this to some extent. Everything was different now. I was completely in the dark about where this journey would take me. It's curious how life can change in an instant. For a brief instant, I was merely an average individual at my job, going through the motions of life without any unexpected twists. In an instant, I found myself ensnared in a situation that eluded my comprehension. An occurrence that defied expectations, yet seemed utterly inevitable. Following our previous discussion, Regina and I had minimal communication for a few days. She allowed me some distance, and to be honest, I appreciated it. My thoughts were scattered, and I required some time to sort through it all. It wasn't merely her marital status, although that played a significant role. It encompassed all of that as well. The abruptness of it all, how everything unraveled in an instant, left me feeling overwhelmed and out of my depth. However, a week later, she made contact once more. To my surprise, a message appeared that simply asked, "Can we meet again? I believe we should have a further discussion." I understood the implication of that. It was more than a mere exchange of words. It was her subtle hint that her desires remained unfulfilled. And deep down, I understood that I simply couldn't refuse. I couldn't simply ignore what was unfolding before me. An undeniable connection existed between us. We planned to gather at a secluded, hidden bar. It was a hidden spot, a sanctuary where anonymity reigned, allowing us to converse freely, unburdened by the fear of eavesdroppers. The last thing I wanted was for anyone to discover what was happening between us. No matter how hard I tried to ignore it, the nagging feeling lingered that this could spiral into something far more intricate than I was ready to handle. Upon my arrival, I noticed her already seated at a corner table, radiating beauty as always. Her golden locks framed her visage flawlessly, and her gaze sparkled with an unusual brightness, yet an undercurrent of tension lingered in her posture. She glanced up and offered me a subtle, restrained smile as I settled into the seat opposite her. "I didn't think you'd come," she said, her voice gentle yet laced with an unidentifiable emotion. Her tone carried a blend of relief and an undercurrent of something more delicate. I was uncertain about whether I should proceed. I admitted, reclining in my chair, "This entire situation, I'm at a loss for how to manage it." "I understand," she replied, her head bobbing gently, "but it's just something I can't shake off." "Concerning you." I was at a loss for words in that moment. Hearing her voice, the words was difficult, as it was the very thing I had been desperately trying to evade. I found it hard to acknowledge that she had been on my mind as well, yet I could no longer deceive myself. "I have also been contemplating it." I finally spoke, my voice barely above a whisper, "I'm not sure what we're doing, Regina. This is unlike anything I've ever encountered." Words failed to capture it. She leaned in, her gaze fixed on me with an intensity that sent my heart racing. "It can be quite simple, Louise. There's no rush to have everything sorted out at this moment. We must embrace transparency in our communication. At this moment, I want to express that this is what I desire. I'm curious to discover the journey ahead." Her words lingered, and for a fleeting moment, I found myself gasping for air. The truth of her words finally sank in. This was more than a fleeting instance. She sought something deeper than a mere fling or a fleeting distraction. She was all in, wholeheartedly devoted to whatever it might evolve into. And in spite of all my hesitations, in spite of the uncertainties and the anxiety of potential pitfalls, I discovered that I was in agreement. "All right," I declared, "let's get started. However, this must remain confidential. No one will discover it. Not at this moment." She nodded, a subtle smile playing at the edges of her lips. "Absolutely, we'll proceed at a leisurely pace. However, I want you to understand, Louise, this is genuine for me." I was completely unaware of what lay ahead. Yet, as the hours passed filled with conversation and laughter, I sensed a change in the air. It was an unforeseen occurrence. A bond that transcended the tangible, surpassing the excitement of the hidden. As we departed the bar, it became evident that there was no turning back. We were both aware of the unfolding situation. And we both understood that it was a decision beyond reversal. As we said our goodbyes, her kiss on my cheek was gentle and fleeting, yet it lingered just enough to make me feel as if I were floating on a cloud. "I'll see you soon," she murmured softly before she turned away. And just like that, my existence took on a layer of complexity. A touch more perilous. And much more exhilarating. I found myself pondering what the next step might entail. It's amusing how a single choice can entirely alter the course of your existence. A fleeting instant that, in the moment, appears insignificant, yet in hindsight, you come to understand it was the turning point. It was in that small cafe that Regina and I found ourselves sitting across from one another, and that moment unfolded before us. As we have experienced countless times in the past. Yet, on this occasion, an unusual essence lingered in the atmosphere. A feeling of closure. For weeks, our encounters had been shrouded in secrecy. What began as an exhilarating adventure, tinged with a hint of danger, something we both recognized as forbidden, gradually evolved into a more intricate situation. The distinction between right and wrong faded to the point where it became nearly unrecognizable. Yet, throughout it all, we remained cautious. We always keep it under wraps. Keep it a secret from everyone. The hidden nature of it all heightened the thrill, yet the burden was beginning to weigh heavily on me. Regina was the first to break the silence, her gaze locked onto mine. "Louise," she began gently. "This has been on my mind quite a bit. Our story. I believe I have a clear understanding of our next steps. A knot twisted in my stomach. This conversation had been on my mind, and I had been sidestepping it for as long as I could. The thought of her bringing it all to a close had been hovering in my thoughts, yet I found myself unprepared for such a reality. I had concerns that extended beyond the relationship itself. It encompassed all that accompanied it. I found it impossible to act as if she didn't matter to me, yet I couldn't overlook the reality that our actions were misguided. "Could you clarify what you mean?" I inquired, making an effort to maintain a calm tone, even as turmoil brewed within me. She hesitated, her fingers drumming anxiously against the table. "We've been residing in this bubble for an extended period. However, I'm beginning to understand that we can no longer maintain the facade. I can no longer maintain this facade. I am in a marriage, Louise. I've been deceiving my husband and myself, and I no longer wish to continue this way." I gazed at her, a swirl of relief and melancholy washing over me. A part of me understood that this moment was bound to happen, yet another part clung to the hope that we could continue, that we could persist in the shadows of it all. Yet, when she voiced it, it transformed into a tangible truth. "I understand." I spoke softly. "I've been pondering the very same notion." A heavy silence lingered between us, and for a fleeting moment, I questioned whether we had both erred in our choices. Perhaps we were merely two souls swept away by the intensity of the moment, searching for something elusive and intangible. As I gazed at Regina, it dawned on me that there was a genuine connection between us, something profound that transcended mere physical attraction. Yet, it was also an entity that could not endure in the reality we inhabited. "I adore you, Louise," she murmured, her voice scarcely a whisper. "However, I find it increasingly difficult to continue down this path. I wish to avoid causing pain to others. And I can no longer inflict pain upon myself." Her words struck me with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. I was aware of her feelings for me. Her declaration of love struck a chord within me, illuminating the depth of our shared commitment to this journey. It was more than merely an affair. It had evolved into a more intricate situation, one that could not persist without repercussions. "I adore you as well, Regina." I responded, my heart weighed down. "However, I believe we are both aware that this situation cannot continue. We must pause before the situation deteriorates further." We lingered in quietude for a few more moments, the gravity of the choice pressing down upon us. All words have been exhausted, and no further justifications remain. We were both aware that persisting would be unjust not only to her husband but also to us. The weight of guilt became unbearable, and we found ourselves at our limit. At last, Regina rose to her feet, and I trailed behind her. We strolled out of the cafe together, side by side. Yet, an expanse had emerged between us, one that had gradually expanded and could no longer be overlooked. As we exchanged our last farewells, it struck me that although this marked the conclusion of our journey together, it did not signify the end of the memories we created. It was an experience that would linger in my memory, a testament to the decisions we embraced and the journeys we undertook. As I turned my back on Regina, uncertainty loomed over what lay ahead for both of us, yet one truth stood clear in my mind. The decision I made was indeed the correct one. We both experienced that. This had come to an end. And so it was settled.